Hello and welcome back to the Reflactor channel. This is the unintentional part 2 of my review of the Celestron Firstscope telescope. I learned so much from the feedback that I got from viewers like you and doing a little bit more research on the telescope. This, of course, is the little 3-inch dobsonian telescope from Celestron called the Firstscope. It turns out it's actually a lot of fun to use. I've still been using this over the past week. The one thing that I've learned is that this thing and the similar knockoffs of this are so popular that there's a lot of 3D objects on Thingiverse that you can print that fit this. One of the most important items are pre-made masks. So if you don't want to make one out of cardboard, you can print them out of plastic on a 3D printer. Now, as you can see, there's a bunch of them here. These come in a single set. You download this from Thingiverse. I'll put a link down in the description box below. But here's a mask that's F4. We've got a mask that is F5, F6, and of course F7. And then it takes it one step further, and we've got a mask that's F12. This is an offset F12, and I'll talk about this in just a second. And if you can believe it, there's even this wonderful little Batnov mask. Look at that, isn't that neat? Now, these, of course, all took about an hour each to print. Before I did this, though, I did some extreme collimation. Oh, by the way, first of all, you might notice I put a red dot finder up here. I wanted to make my life a little bit easier. So I did extreme collimation on this. Now, how did I do that? The first thing to do was make sure that the secondary mirror was perfectly centered in the tube. And oddly enough, I did that by taking the smallest mask here and just making sure that the secondary mirror is centered in there. And of course, I bent the rod a little bit and I adjusted it and turned it and everything just to get it so it's centered right there. Then I did something kind of strange. I removed the mirror cell. I set this down on a sheet of paper and I put a laser collimator and angled the secondary mirror so that the red dot was perfectly centered on the paper at the bottom of the tube. The reason I had to do that, of course, is I don't have a center dot on the mirror, and I really didn't want to take the time to do that. So the easiest was to just remove these 3 screws and pull the mirror out. But then, of course, the trickiest part is that this mirror doesn't really have any collimation adjustments on it. So what I did was I put 1 screw in, and I used that kind of as a setting point, and then I rotated and tilted this back mirror until I got it just right. And then I put this metal tape to keep it firmly in place. So this telescope is as collimated as I can make it. Everything's centered and aligned. I wanted to make sure that we did this in the best light that this telescope can do, despite how small it is and despite the fact that it has a spherical mirror. So I need to talk a little bit about this. As you might notice, a lot of the masks that you see for reflectors have what's called an offset mask. The purpose of this, of course, is that when you let this light come in over here, it basically eliminates the secondary mirror shadow that you would have in the middle. It also eliminates the crosshair. If you angle this just right, it also eliminates the crosshair of supports that the secondary mirror needs in a reflector telescope. So this is typically what you would find. The only problem, of course, though, this has a spherical mirror. So what this is going to do is allow contributions from that outer edge of the mirror where the spherical aberrations are the worst. So if you want to know about the problems from a spherical mirror, check out part 1 of this review, and I'll put a link to that down in the description box. But so how do we still use these on our reflector? Well, as it turns out, we are masking this down, and we put this here. You can see that the central mirror actually blocks quite a bit of light. That's just an unfortunate problem with what we're doing right here. But of course, we can't use an offset because that's just going to keep the spherical aberrations in the equation, and we can't do that. So we're just going to have to live with the loss of light from that central obstruction and hope that the smaller this hole gets, we see less of a contribution of the spherical aberrations from the outer edges of the mirror. So as we found out with this cardboard mask in the first video, it turns out this is actually about the same as this one right here. I think what we're going to see is that this provides the sharpest image with the least loss of light. So there's only one way to really go about this. Let's take this outside and give it a try. Let's run through these masks and see which one works best. We're going to use the stock eyepieces, and in this case, it's going to be the symmetric Ramsden 4mm. So it's going to give a magnification of about 75. That will really show off the spherical aberrations, and hopefully we'll see some pretty cool improvements. So let's go outside. So that's a street light, and that's the moon. It's all lined up. So let's start putting masks on. Here we are with no mask. Let's go ahead and try the F4 mask. Not much of an improvement there. It's almost the same as the full mirror. Let's go with the F5 mask. There's a little bit of improvement. You can see just through the spherical aberration, one end of the moon is a little bit sharper. Let's try to get it centered again. Let's go for an F6. See what that does. Wow, look at that. That's actually quite good. Let's try for the F7 and see what that does. F7 is extremely sharp. That's a very, very good image. Let's go for the tiny little mask, the F12, that's off-centered. Now, what you're seeing here is the fact that basically it's allowing just a little bit of light through, but it's bouncing off the outer edge of the spherical mirror. So you're getting the spherical aberrations pretty bad. An offset mask is just not going to correct that spherical aberration. But let's go back to the F7 and get a really sharp view. I mean, look at that. That's really sharp. All right, welcome back. It was starting to get cold outside. The key takeaway is if you have a 3D printer and you have one of these Celestron Firstscope telescopes, pretty much any variant of the 76mm or 3-inch mirror, then you should go on Thingiverse and download the masks that you can get for this. I'll put the Thingiverse link down in the description box. So, after all this time, I still recommend this, especially if you only have $50 to $70. They're often going on sale. And especially if you have a child that has a budding interest in astronomy, this is a great starter. You can use binoculars, but you know what? With little kids, I think a telescope would be a lot cooler. And one interesting thing, while we were outside testing this on the moon, I was printing another accessory. It's an eyepiece holder that attaches to the main bolt right here. See if you can see that. Kind of cool, right? It holds the two eyepieces that this telescope comes with. But with that said, I think we've reviewed the heck out of this telescope. If you've enjoyed this video, please push the like button. But until then, thanks for watching and clear skies.